Greg, one more thing. It won't let me get on the other way. I'm not going to be.
That's okay. We'll make it work. All right. I'm going to go ahead and get the live stream going and then open up the doors. Thanks, everyone.
for church.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to All Souls Unitarian Church. We were listening to some Beethoven this morning, who is the king of the delayed finish. So I was just waiting for him to wrap something up in a section. He just loves to ask questions at the end of phrases like we all are going to do today. So sorry we had to stop right in the middle of something. I know you were waiting going, what's next? My name is Greg Sanders, and I am the music director here at All Souls. But during our COVID services that we've been doing online, I'm also functioning as your technical director. You should think of me more like the Wizard of Oz in the film, who kind of just hides behind the curtain and pretends to know what he's doing, but is actually a little bit of a charlatan when it comes to this sort of topic. Nevertheless, I'm doing the best I can, and I'm here to help you all navigate this service. Today we have a guest minister. Kristina Church is visiting us due to Reverend Joel's unexpected absence. We're really looking forward to hearing her and want to thank her for joining us today. Our intern minister, Elizabeth Valencia, will be helping us with the service, and our worship associate today is Sandy Reiberg. We invite you to enjoy the service today with your microphone muted. It's better for all of us if you're able to do that. Don't make me come after you. I will if I have to, but I don't like to do that. Also, remember the service is being recorded for viewing later, and we're also live streaming on Facebook. So don't do anything your mother wouldn't want you to do when you're on TV. We invite you to engage with our service through the chat function. Also, don't forget we have a coffee hour afterwards online for you to enjoy. Thank you for joining us today, and we are going to get started. Have a good service, and I'll be here behind the curtain if you need anything. Thank you. It looks like we're off to a rough start. Sandy seems to be frozen. Well.
Hey, Greg, I will go ahead and do the welcome.
Great, thank you.
So good morning to all. I am intern minister Elizabeth Valencia, serving today in place of Reverend Joel. Welcome to our service this morning, and we welcome Reverend Kristina Church. We are online today and through the rest of the month. Reverend Joel Miller, our interim minister, will continue to communicate with the congregation about what we can expect about returning in person. We currently have a coffee hour on Zoom after every service, and you can find the link for coffee hour via Zoom on the homepage of our website at allsoulsindy.org. If you would like to receive our weekly email news, Sarah Cannon, who is our Director of Children's and Community Programming, will tell you in a moment about how you can do that in our connection card. If you're a visitor with us this morning, we are glad you are here with us, and we invite you to bring all of your lived experience and your spiritual background with you today. Reverend Joel is not with us today due to a concussion. He is fine, and he's wisely avoiding looking at screens until that is healed. With us today in his place is me and Reverend Kristina Church from the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Erie in Erie, Pennsylvania, who will be speaking to us about Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a Vietnamese Buddhist monk and Zen master who recently died at the age of 95. In a few moments, we will open our service with the beautiful ritual of the covenant and chalice lighting. And we say this covenant as a way to remember and to live out the community of love and justice that we aim to be. Welcome this morning.
Good morning, everyone. For those who might not know me, my name is Sarah Cannon, and I'm our Director of Children's and Community Programming here at All Souls. And in just a moment, I'm going to drop a link to the connection card here in the chat. We do this virtually when we're attending virtual services, so it will go to Google Form. And this is a very useful opportunity for you to connect to All Souls, whether you're a first-time visitor or a longtime member, and make sure that we know what pastoral care needs you might have, what types of programs you're interested in that you don't see yet, and what programs we're offering that you are particularly interested in. One thing I particularly want to lift up this week is that we are doing a parent-child book group for pre-K through third graders using a title that's very popular in our OWL programs. It's so amazing. I think there is still one copy available in the lobby for someone to grab. If you need help getting your hands on a copy of that book, please let me know. That group will be next Sunday, January 30th from 9:30 to 10:15, and you can participate via Zoom or in person. Both are options. Thank you so much.
This morning, our opening words are by the Vietnamese Zen Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh. People usually consider walking on water or in thin air a miracle. But I think the real miracle is not to walk either on water or in thin air, but to walk on earth. Every day we are engaged in a real miracle, which we don't even recognize. A blue sky, white clouds, green leaves, the black, curious eyes of a child, our own two eyes. All is a miracle. This morning, we are welcoming Lydia Leal, who is lighting our chalice for us. And if you will join me and all of us in saying our chalice this morning, I will lead us with it. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. This is our covenant. Thank you, Lydia, for lighting our chalice this morning.
It appears that we still have lost Sandy, so I think we're gonna have to move on from that. Sarah, would you mind moving to your time for all ages for us? Thank you.
Not a bit. Good morning, everyone. I think that what we're all a little bit used to seeing me do the time for all ages with slides and illustrations, and there's usually a lot of blue on the screen. Staff likes to tease me for being a little too obsessed with blue. But today, I'm not using any slides at all. I wanted to tell you a story about someone with a very silly name that I loved immediately when I saw it. I kind of wish it was my name. Long ago in China, there lived a monk who perched in a certain tree every day to meditate. No matter if the tree swayed in fierce winds and rain, the monk settled himself comfortably high up in the tree. And because of this, he was nicknamed Bird's Nest by the village folk nearby. Bird's Nest. Many of these villagers passed beneath the monk while hunting or while gathering wood in the forest. And after a time, they grew used to having a monk in a tree. Some began to stop and talk of their concerns and their worries with Bird's Nest. They liked the things he had to say. And soon, Bird's Nest became known for his kind and thoughtful words. After more years, the monk's wise reputation spread throughout the province. Visitors from distant cities hiked to the remote forest to get his advice. Even the governor of the province decided that he too would like to visit Bird's Nest to discuss matters of importance. So one spring morning, the governor set off to find him. After traveling for several days, he at last located Bird's Nest's tree in the dense forest. The monk sat calmly, high in the topmost branches, enjoying the warmth and the bird songs of spring. Looking up, the governor shouted, "Bird's Nest! I am the governor of this province, and I have come a great distance to speak with you. I have a most important question." The governor waited for a reply, but heard only the pleasant sounds of leaves stirring in the breeze. The governor continued, "This is my question. Tell me, Bird's Nest, what is it that all the wise ones have taught? Can you tell me the most important thing the Buddha ever said?" There was a long pause, just the soft rustle of leaves again. Finally, the monk called down from the tree. "This is your answer, Governor. Don't do bad things. Always do good things. That's what all the Buddhas taught." Well, the governor said, "I walked 2 days for that? Don't do bad things? Always do good things? I knew that when I was 3 years old." Looking down at the governor, Bird's Nest replied with a wry smile, "Yes, the 3-year-old knows it, but the 80-year-old still finds it very difficult to do." I like that story a lot. And if you liked it too, one thing I want you to know is that it's actually in 2 different books in our Faith Formation library. One of them is a book called Kindness, and another one is a book called No Words, The Teachings of the Buddha. And one thing that Unitarian Universalists will sometimes do is take the same story or the same scripture and put 2 different versions next to each other and say, how are they different? So that's something that you can try. But I also want to tell you before I end, one interesting thing that the monk that we're going to talk more about today, Nhat Hanh, liked to say about hearts. When we talk about being loving and kind to other people, sometimes we think it's a really nice idea, but it's not easy to do. It's not easy to make our hearts large enough to be loving and kind to people who are not loving and kind to us, maybe to people who annoy us. But he said, that makes sense. If you pour a handful of salt into a cup of water, the water is completely undrinkable, right? But if you pour the salt into a river, people can continue to draw the water to cook, to wash, to drink. The river is immense, and it has room to receive and embrace and transform. And that is how our hearts need to be. Not small, like a cup of water, but limitless, like a river. Thank you.
Thank you for our time for all ages, Sarah, and thank you for also adjusting with us this Sunday. This morning, we are going to hold Reverend Joel Miller in our thoughts, in our affirmations, our prayers, whatever way we hold others in our minds, and wish him good healing, a good recovery. We also continue to hold Ann O'Connor Skinner, her husband Andy, and their children, who've lost Ann's sister Joyce O'Connor on January 7th after a battle with cancer. And the family appreciates cards and notes of concern that can be sent to the address which is in your In the Know newsletter from this past Wednesday. And we continue to make space for the grief that we are carrying, for the losses, for all of this connected to this time with us dealing with COVID and the daily interruptions, the weekly interruptions, what this means for those of us who are working, who are parents, what this means for those of us who are students, what this means for all of us who carry and worry about someone during this time. We make space for the disruption within the congregation once again, and the unknown of when we will return back in person to All Souls. And we make space today for the loss of this profound person, this Vietnamese Buddhist monk, which has impacted my life too. The loss of Thich Nhat Hanh, who has returned back to the earth and whose loss impacts the world at large. Reverend Kristina Church will be blessing us today with a meditation inspired by Thich Nhat Hanh. We welcome her.
Good morning, and thank you for having me this morning. It's so wonderful to be here. Even under these circumstances, I'm glad to be able to join you and celebrate Sunday morning with you today. I invite you to get comfortable in your chair or wherever you are now, and to place your feet on the ground if you are able to. And begin to breathe in. Breathe in slowly and deeply, and breathe out fully and completely. If you would like to, you can close your eyes. This is one of the most simple meditations that Thich Nhat Hanh taught. It was a simple meditation to get in touch with your breath and to find the peacefulness in settling your body. So if you would like, I invite you to think or say these words as you breathe in. Breathing in, I know that I am alive. Breathing out, I smile. And if you feel comfortable doing so, I invite you to smile. Breathing in, I embrace the present moment. Breathing out, I know it is a wonderful moment. Let's do it again. Breathing in, I know that I am alive. Breathing out, I smile. Breathing in, I embrace the present moment. Breathing out, I know it is a wonderful moment. And one last time, let's breathe in and out together as I say the words. And if you would like to say them with me while muted, if you haven't quite felt moved to do so yet, I invite you to do it this time. Breathing in, I know that I am alive. Breathing out, I smile. Breathing in, I embrace this present moment. Breathing out, I know it is a wonderful moment. Thank you. And feel free to open your eyes and come back to the space when you are willing and able.
I want to make space before I share a brief reflection on my connection to Thich Nhat Hanh this morning, to Sandy, who was going to share some thoughts that I hope in the near future Sandy will get to share with us all. Some that was going to touch a bit on the history of All Souls, the connection to one of our ministers here, who was a Buddhist Unitarian Universalist, and some stories that Sandy was going to share about how she learned about Thich Nhat Hanh and his work, and the activism around the Vietnam War, and his connection to MLK. So Sandy had that prepared for us, and I'm so grateful that those words, that I was able to read them prior to this reflection, because I think it all pieces together all the little bits that we all know together of Thich Nhat Hanh. A service to honor and reflect on Thich Nhat Hanh feels kind to me this morning. Kind. I received the news of his death through my oldest son 2 evenings ago. We texted back and forth about how sad we just felt. My children, myself, their father, we all have grown up with Thich Nhat Hanh's books on our bookshelves, with his meditations playing in the background, listening to his talks, trying at times desperately to benefit from his wisdom for a daily application, utilizing mantras in our daily lives and with each other sometimes because we just needed a tool to help us be better with each other. Thich Nhat Hanh has been a major doorway for me, for my family, into Buddhism. For me, he has been a safe entry door with no triggers. A very kind, neutral space to regather myself, sometimes even from the hurts and the fears instilled by my own upbringing, that included the hurt from the very Abrahamic faiths I come from and that I appreciate. And it's not easy to say that, but it's true. And it brings up curiosity for the many others for who this also may be true. I have said that Buddhism has helped enhance my practice as a Muslim in the past. And while true, it also is true that Buddhism at times has been my place of refuge from everything too. A place where detachment could occur even from the concepts of heaven and hell, from focusing too much on an afterlife, leading to an appreciation of life and breath itself. One of the gifts of Thich Nhat Hanh's presence to the larger community, including to his own Buddhist community, was his role in changing the Buddhist communities too. He helped shape Buddhism in such a way that welcomed communal activism and that helped to bridge other Buddhist communities together. A lot of inclusion has been cultivated through Thich Nhat Hanh. And that's a gift to the world. I found some comfort over the past few years knowing that Thich Nhat Hanh was still with us, although no longer available to us the way he used to be since he had his stroke in 2014. But as life is meant to be, he too had to return fully. And I wonder now about the spiritual teachers that will continue to be with us on our own journeys on earth. Who will come next? Who is next? Who is with us already? One of his valuable books for us comes in a small, compact format, and it is called True Love, a practice for awakening the heart. This little book is filled with little mantras that are useful to help us be more present in our relationships, especially when there is conflict, hurt, and suffering. I highly encourage you all to consider getting a copy of this small little book. Earlier in the day, on the same day of his death, before my son had texted me, I had found myself reconnecting to Buddhism again. And it felt right. It felt like something was needed. And so to hear about his passing that evening felt pretty profound. I thought of the word synchronicity. And so now I find myself since that day leaning back into it, not being afraid to go there, because I think I've considered myself a bit of a fence sitter with Buddhism for a while. And I had a conversation with one of my children about leaning more into this path as a way to heal some hurts in our family and in our lives. I'm grateful for the service today in honor of Thich Nhat Hanh's life. And I want to welcome Reverend Kristina Church, who serves as minister of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Erie, Pennsylvania. Reverend Kristina and her family, her husband, Greg, 11-year-old son, Raphael, and their Labradoodle, Onyx, recently moved to Erie from Buffalo, New York, where they made their home for over a decade and where they first met Reverend Joel Miller. Welcome with us this morning, Reverend Kristina Church.
Good morning. It's my pleasure and a privilege to be here with all of you. And I'm sorry that it had to happen under these sad circumstances of Reverend Joel's concussion, but I know that we all wish him the very best. And as so many have already said, as Elizabeth shared with you, so many of us have connections to Thich Nhat Hanh, whether we knew him personally or worked with him personally or not. And so I have a very similar story to share with you. That 2 days ago when I heard that Thich Nhat Hanh had died, I was hit right here in my heart with something very powerful. I don't know if I can even call it a feeling of grief. It was more than that. It was a very profound sense of respect, sadness, a whole bunch of things all mixed together. This person had changed my life in so many ways, but ways that were rather small and indetectable if you looked from the outside. I didn't shave my head and begin to wear a saffron robe or run away to India or call myself a Buddhist. But I realized that since the early 90s, when I was given a book called Being Peace, another small little book of Thich Nhat Hanh's with a very simple title, I was given a book by someone who dabbled in Buddhism. Ever since then, I've never not been in some kind of dialogue in my mind with this human being, this Buddhist monk who mostly lived half a world away and practiced a religion that I still don't consider myself to be an official follower of. But when I think about the number of times that I have calmed myself by practicing mindful breathing in the form that I just shared with you earlier, or the number of times I've stood at the sink doing dishes, which I hate to do, and tried to remind myself that this too is a wonderful moment that I can do dishes meditation, as Thich Nhat Hanh taught me. Or the number of walks that I've taken when I've drawn deep joy from the image of my feet kissing the earth as I walk. I realize that he has affected me in so many ways, profoundly. Thai, as his students called him, beloved teacher, was instrumental in bringing Buddhist ideas about mindfulness to the West and ideas about the appreciation of this present moment. So even if we haven't heard of Thich Nhat Hanh, or we don't know a lot about his life or his practices, we have likely intersected with his influence in some powerful way. And I wonder, as you use, I wonder how many of us have some of those little books, those well-worn little books with the simple titles on our bookshelves, or maybe we have pressed them onto family members or friends that we think would benefit from them. So when I think about what I want to say about Thich Nhat Hanh on this beautiful morning, at this beautiful present moment, I realize that all of my ideas really fall apart. The total simplicity with which he expressed himself and his very sophisticated ideas through nature imagery and connections to our own bodies, this makes it hard for me to find a way to speak about his legacy that really feels authentic. And so I would like to use some of his own nature imagery to talk about what he meant to me and by extension to all of us. Thich Nhat Hanh was a flower. Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes, another one of my favorite writers, recently called him the walking lotus of our planet. A lotus flower draws its beauty and its color and its vibrancy from the common mud of existence. And Thai had that humility as well as that amazing creativity. He did that by offering up his heart, up and out, fully. He opened out to the world with no withholding. His words, his writing had a freshness and immediacy that could speak to the heart of every person's experiences, whether they were children, Westerners, Buddhists, non-Buddhists. He spoke to all of us. His walking meditation introduced a beautiful ritual for learning to love the earth that we walk upon and to walk in gratitude. He embraced the joy of the present moment without reserve. He reminded us that smiling can be a sacred act. He was a mountain. He was a mountain. At a time when Buddhists were taught to be apolitical, to withdraw from the stress of the world, Thich Nhat Hanh taught that ideas about non-attachment did not mean withdrawing into a cloister and abandoning work for justice. As we heard earlier, he opposed the Vietnam War. He put his reputation and his body in solidarity with those who were being harmed. He dissolved this false barrier that had been created in many religions between a contemplative life and a dedication to human rights and justice. He showed how a person can be fully immersed in an ancient monastic tradition, a contemplative tradition, and yet committed to working for positive change in the world. His version of engaged Buddhism empowered other religious leaders like Martin Luther King to expand their roles and speak out even further for justice and peace. And I also am very sorry that Sandy was unable to join us virtually with tech difficulties, but I have the piece that she was planning on reading, and I don't want to read her words, they're her words, but she shared a poem that Thich Nhat Hanh wrote about the war, which I will read to you. It's called Condemnation. Whoever is listening, be my witness. I cannot accept this war. I never could, I never will. I must say this 1,000 times before I am killed. I am like the bird who dies for the sake of its mate, dripping blood from its broken beak and crying out, beware, turn around and face your real enemies, ambition, violence, hatred, and greed. As a writer, as a wisdom teacher, he was a clear pool of water. Fully immersed in the discipline of Buddhism from the age of 16, when he entered the monastery, Thich Nhat Hanh learned to become a calm presence. And then he offered these teachings to all of us through his writings. Being a calm presence, he could see things as they were and reflect truth back to us as it was. He showed in each moment of his life how we can find peace and equanimity through simple mindfulness techniques that require no specialized arcane knowledge, no expensive equipment, and no unique abilities. We too can calm our minds while walking, while washing dishes, while simply breathing in and out. Each time we become distracted by resentments from the past or fears for the future, we can remind ourselves, I am alive. This is a wonderful moment. In doing so, we become the clear pools of water that can reflect reality once again. Thai brought what he called the miracle of mindfulness to new practitioners in the West, spawning an entire industry that we have seen mushroom into something he perhaps never imagined. But when we become overwhelmed and confused by the many offerings of this mindfulness maze that has proliferated, we can return to the simplicity of those little books, the simplicity of his teachings. We can breathe in, we can breathe out. We can practice being peace. We can know that peace is every step. And Thich Nhat Hanh was spaciousness itself. Thich Nhat Hanh was a dissolver of barriers, a builder of bridges. His life embodied wholeness and healing by building connections between things which had become alienated. The mind and the heart and the body knitting back together. The East and the West becoming reconnected. Buddhism and other faiths working together for peace and justice. Between a monastic role and an activist role. Between the conception of ourselves as individuals and the conception of ourselves as part of the entire cosmos. And now this beloved leader has built and crossed a new bridge, a bridge between life and death. But even here, as he spoke of his own death, he was busy dissolving barriers. As he said to his followers that if they wanted to make a shrine to him after he died, a shrine around his ashes, they should make a plaque that said, "I am not in here." And then he said, in case people didn't get it, a second plaque could be added to read, "I am not out there either." And if people were still confused, he suggested that a third plaque could read, "I may be found in your way of breathing and walking." He went on to say that even when the cloud is not there, it continues as snow or rain. It is impossible for a cloud to die. It can become rain or ice, but it cannot become nothing. The cloud does not need to have a soul in order to continue. There is no beginning and there is no end. And so, if we wish this morning to find Thich Nhat Hanh, perhaps we can find him in his teachings. We can find him in our way of breathing and our way of walking on this earth. More than anything I could say, I think to capture the essence of who he was, I can read you from a very simple little book of his called A Handful of Quiet. And in it, he teaches another meditation, another kind of meditation, using 4 pebbles. You may recognize this imagery. Each pebble represents a flower, a mountain, calm water, and space. And you can do this anywhere by just picking up 4 small objects. And he says that you may find other qualities that you want each pebble to represent, like love, compassion, joy, and inclusiveness, the 4 qualities of true love. Or you could also let them represent 4 loved ones that you want to send out love to. But at each moment you breathe 3 times and you say to yourself, breathing in, I see myself as a flower. He says that we don't have to imagine that because each of us is born a flower. and the seed of that flowerness is still in us. And this practice can help you to smile easily and feel fresh as a flower. The second pebble represents a mountain. He says, there is a mountain inside each of us, and it keeps us solid. Solidity makes it possible for us to be happy and to allow others to rely on us. When your loved one is solid, you can rely on them. Your solidity is something you can offer to people around you. The third pebble represents calm water. If you've seen the surface of a lake when it's very still, Tai says, you may have noticed that it reflects the mountains, the clouds, and the trees around it perfectly. You can take a picture of that lake, and it's as if you're taking a picture of the sky and the trees and the mountain because they're so clearly reflected in the surface of that lake. So when you are calm, when you are still, you can see things as they truly are without distortion. Otherwise, it's easy to get confused and angry and create a lot of suffering. If we can find tranquility, we can truly find happiness. So with this third pebble, we cultivate stillness and calm. And the last pebble represents space and freedom. Space is freedom, and freedom is the foundation of true happiness. Without freedom, our happiness cannot be complete. We want to be free from oppression, from fear, from anger, despair, and from worries. So breathing in, you can create space for yourself, and breathing out, you can create space for your loved ones. This pebble meditation can be done to help children and adults cultivate more freshness, more solidity, more stillness, and more freedom. It can be done anywhere. And Thich Nhat Hanh especially directs most of his meditations that they be done with pleasure and without difficulty, that we find ease in the doing of them. So I invite you to explore the four pebble meditation in your own way, anytime you would like to, anytime that you need to feel that freshness, that solidity, that calm, or that freedom. Because if we wish this morning to find Thich Nhat Hanh, we need to find him in our way of breathing. We need to find him by being peace together in this present moment. Last night, I watched, through the miracle of live streaming, thousands upon thousands of people in saffron-colored and brown-colored robes lay Thich Nhat Hanh's body into his final casket. And I thought about those words that he said, "I am not in here." So while it was entirely appropriate for them to perform this beautiful ritual of saying goodbye to their beloved leader, I'm also thinking about what he said. I am to be found in your way of breathing and walking. And that's how we can honor Thich Nhat Hanh. We don't need to be more like him. We need to be more like our authentic, beautiful selves. We can honor him by living into our lives fully, by offering ourselves to the world completely, by practicing, becoming, and being peace. And so I invite you to remember that you are a flower. You're born for joy, creativity, beauty, and love. I invite you to remember that you are a mountain. When you're struggling, offer strength and solidity to yourself. When others around you are marginalized or their humanity is being denied, use your strength to fight for their rights. Offer them solidarity and be firm in your actions. Have courage. I invite you to see that you're a clear pool of water. Practice whatever techniques allow you to keep your calm spirit, your equanimity, so that you may reflect reality and not inner turbulence. You can always return to your breath to center yourself and respond from a place of peace. And I invite you to become as space, as air itself, to know the freedom of that spaciousness and to remember that we are connected to all things through the sacred and interdependent web of existence. Your existence is connected and intertwined with every other being on this planet and out into the vast cosmos. This is how we honor Thich Nhat Hanh, by being freshness, by being solidity, by being calm, by being freedom, and by being peace. Brings cooling rain and mist, never really dissolving, but giving life to each new seed that grows after us. Till then, each day, in each tender moment we are given, may we continue to learn and practice being peace. Amen.